Hi, it's Katy Mackenzie, mortgage broker with TMG The Mortgage Group, and your host of I Love Vancouver Real Estate. Very exciting episode today. We're here with Erica Ma, who's an account manager with First National, one of my key broker lender partners. And I asked her to come in today because we wanted to quick and dirty give you some of the details on the new BC homeowner mortgage and equity partnership loan. What a mouthful. Erica, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Katy. I'm really excited to be here, especially with all the changes, lots of information that needs to be shared with everyone. So
do bear with us if you hear paper shuffling around. We do have about 45 sheets of paper sitting in front of us because we wanted to make sure we touched on a lot of little things that were important. We wanted to go through the basics. I'm sure you've heard the basics of the new BC Home Partnership Loan. So just a couple of the basics, and then talk about some of the frequently asked questions that I know, Erica, you've heard a lot of today in a session that was held.
Yeah, I definitely got a lot of questions from brokers that we sort of had to investigate on our end. And so hopefully we'll try our best to answer those questions that you have.
Awesome. And then if we have time to, we're going to talk about, what these quick changes by our federal and provincial governments are like from the insurer's perspective, the lender's perspective, and the broker's perspective, and or possibly give an example if we have time as well.
Yeah, we can do that. Absolutely.
Yeah. So why don't we start then? Basically what is this new BC Home Partnership Loan? It's basically here to assist first-time homebuyers that are residents of BC with an interest-free loan. So who can qualify? So individuals who basically have an interest in the home and meet all of the eligibility criteria requirements can qualify. So you have to be a Canadian citizen, permanent residence, that you've resided also in Canada for a period of 5 years, and in BC for the last 12 months. You have to be a first-time homebuyer, and their definition of this is that you've never owned an interest in any property in the world. Your home has to be purchased or valued less than $750,000, and you have to be eligible for a high-ratio insured first mortgage with one of our 3 insurers, CMHC, Genworth, or Canada Guarantee. Some of the other requirements: you have to have a combined gross household income of less than $150,000. The home has to be your principal residence, and that's defined as principal residence for tax purposes, so whichever home you deem as your principal residence, so it's the one you should be living in. You can have a rental suite in that property, but a rental property is not eligible, nor are vacation properties. You have to take possession of the home within 30 days of closing and move in within 6 months. So if you are doing a big reno, that's also something to take into consideration. So the new program is going to match your down payment to a maximum of 5% or $37,500.
Yeah, that's correct.
So it's going to be secured as a second mortgage, payable to BC Housing Management Commission, qualifying, including the repayment on that loan. So that's something that we can touch on as well. It is interest and payment free for the first 5 years and then repayable upon that 6th year. The full loan is due and payable if, in fact, you do default on the loan, change of ownership on the property, or you default on your first mortgage. So something to consider. Before you apply as well, we'll talk about the process, but you do have to have your partial down payment saved. You do have to be pre-approved for the mortgage, as well as then providing your supporting documents. So I think those are the basics. Have I neglected anything?
I mean, there's a lot of information on this as well too, and I think, if anyone out there has any questions, I really highly recommend you to speak to your mortgage professional. For example, Katy here, she's very on top of what's going on with all the changes. And then take a look at the BC Housing website. There's a lot of information on there. There's a lot of scenarios on there, calculations on there to, calculate to see if you even actually qualify this program. And I think the most important step is for the clients to actually sit down with the mortgage professionals and have that conversation with that mortgage broker just to see if they actually fit with that requirement, just to see if it actually fits with them. Because it's a program that might not fit with everyone, even though it does sound appealing, but there are definitely some requirements around it.
So in your session today, who are they saying this program's best suited for?
Basically, because it is interest-free, payment-free for the first 5 years, the clients do have to pay for it once the 6 years roll around. And, there a lot of what they're saying is that it will basically, it's for, the clients that can afford the mortgage payments but just need that little extra help to get their foot into the housing market door.
So they've got the income to qualify, but necessarily haven't saved just that little bit extra down payment that they need to get into that home.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I mean, there's probably other reasons why as well too, but this seems to be the most commonly ones that I'm hearing so far.
Or clients, I was talking to one today who said, I've got a bonus, a really big bonus coming, but we don't get paid the bonus in December. We get paid it later in January, but I want to buy the home now.
Right, yeah. So it's really important for the clients to know that they still have to qualify in the ratios and just be aware that once it does come due, they're going to be paying this payment back.
Tell me about the timeline, the process, the steps. We'll throw up an infographic on this, but we wanted to talk to it as well.
Yeah, there's definitely a process to this. I mean, the biggest first step, like we mentioned before, is make sure that the clients talk to the broker, make sure that they're familiar with this program, that they are somewhat eligible for this program, which I would think it's really important to make sure that would be the main step. The next step for that is the clients do need to get a pre-approval from a lender or the bank. We have been told by BC Housing that they will accept a pre-approval by a broker, and I don't know how a lot of people will feel about that. Sometimes it's nice to have that actual official pre-approval from a lender. Like at First National, we do issue pre-approvals. The next step for that is that the client is responsible to go online to apply on BC Housing. There's an application process online, and it's really important for the clients to be able to do it themselves. Sometimes there's that language barrier. I know that BC Housing has a really good support line that's available, but there's a lot of people on the help support line that speaks various languages. So there's that language barrier. They can always speak to someone on there to help them with the process.
Because I know we just looked on their website now and everything's in English.
It is, and unfortunately, I believe on the online application it is in English. And I know that, us living in such a multicultural city, and oftentimes as a broker, and I hear a lot from realtors, they really do assist the clients with the application process. It's really important for them to do it online themselves, just because we want to make sure that the information that they submit is accurate, and we don't want to obviously fall back to the broker if something wasn't as accurate on the application.
So BC Housing, just so everyone knows, indicates the supporting documents that are to be submitted. And of course, these aren't available yet, but by the time the podcast rolls out, that online application system will be live. But they're looking for your proof of status in Canada. So your birth certificate, permanent resident card or certificate of your citizenship, your secondary ID, which is your driver's license, BC ID, passport, a certificate of Indian status, a proof of income, so that's confirming your household income, and that is actually by way of your notice of assessments from Canada Revenue Agency, and then your mortgage pre-approval.
Yeah, so basically once you have that package, you want to submit that all online to the BC Housing application. And they are saying currently right now it would take approximately 5 days, depending on the popularity of the program. And of course, it's hard for them to kind of gauge the time frame when the program hasn't even been launched out yet. So that's sort of the general time frame that they've sort of given us right now. So once they go through that process, they will receive a package with that certificate. And once they have that certificate and it kind of guarantees them that they have that approval, the next step for your clients is to now look for their home. They'll look for their home, they'll get their purchase and sales contract. Another question that I don't know we're going to talk about, but if your purchase and sale contract, if the purchase contract doesn't match exactly to their pre-approval amount, that's not a problem. They'll just adjust it at the final stage of the pre-approval for the grant.
So you don't have to have your contract in hand to apply. You do that before, preferably, because there is that 5-day time period, and then you can submit the contract after, the purchase sale contract. And then, as you just said, if the amounts differ, they will adjust those amounts upon that
They will. So
submission.
There is another step where they actually have to submit the purchase and sales contract to BC Housing online application as well too. So it's another sort of second step process with them. And so they'll just kind of do the final review, and then they will issue out the final unconditional approval.
Okay. So hopefully once we get to see that system online, and if anyone wants to share with us as they do their application, we'd love to see it go live. But it sounds like a simple process as long as all of the documents are available, which they should be in all reasonability, because we would be asking for some of these upon your initial application as well. So, okay. So outside of timeline then, let me ask you, well, in relation to timeline, what if you buy something pre-construction? And they've indicated that this program will run for a period of 3 years. So let's say that runs until March 2020. What if your property pre-construction closes in April 2020?
Yeah, and that was a question that we've been getting a lot, and we sort of did address that question to BC Housing, and they said, they're pretty strict on the time frames right now. I mean, if that pre-construction is closing after the deadline, March 2020, then unfortunately the clients aren't going to be eligible with this program.
Okay.
But with that being said, it is a new program, and you never know, things could change throughout the years as it go on.
Yeah.
With the program launching out on Monday, it does mention that the completion has to be after February 15th of 2017. So if you have a contract that's actually completing, let's say February 13th or February 14th, it's not eligible for this program because it doesn't fit with the requirement. So they'll just have to push the dates to after February 15th.
Okay, so just to reconfirm those dates, the program started, by the time you hear this, on January the 16th, 2017. Your closing has to happen after February 15th of 2017. And as of right now, the program is set to run for 3 years, ending March of 2020. So let me ask you another question then. I think we talked to the fact that you can take a lesser amount. No, we haven't. So let's talk to that. So say my match amount is $37,500. What if I only want to take $15,000?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. So they're allowing you to take, it does say matched amount, but you can take less.
Yeah, it does say match to match in most of the examples and scenarios, but we did confirm with BC Housing that obviously if they don't want to take out the full matched amount, they're okay to take a lesser amount if they wanted to.
Okay. Let's talk about subject removal. So typically you have to provide your deposit and draft upon subject removal. Now, what if your BC home loan is a piece of that? And isn't
that
available
seems to be
until
a lot of questions that we've been getting a lot too, especially brokers who are dealing with the realtors, because we know that typically when they have a purchase and sales contract, generally they want that 5% deposit just to sort of give that security. But unfortunately, it is sort of the client's responsibility to come up with that deposit part.
Okay.
So there's nothing, maybe there's another way to get around it, but currently right now, as a lender, there's nothing we can do. We're just going to follow the program how it is, and we don't do deposit loans. We're not, there's basically nothing we can do on that end.
So that's a really important piece, because at subject removal, the client and the realtors will advise us as well, will have to have their deposit check available. So they do have to have their deposit amount available from their own resources at subject removal. So that's something important to know. What about guarantors or co-signers? So a lot of first-time home buyers will come in with gifts from parents, or have their parents actually come on as a guarantor or co-signer, and maybe they've been new in their job, so they need one, or they've got bruised credit, those kinds of things.
Yeah, and that's a really good question, because we definitely see those types of files where they sort of need that extra support from their mom or dad with just to support with the overall income or the credit. And with this program, basically if the parents want to go on, it won't be eligible because, unless the parents are, for whatever reason, are first-time homebuyers as well too. And as well, you have to remember that the total income on the application has to be less than $150,000. So the parents could go on if they fit under the eligibility criterias, but if they don't, then the clients won't be able to won't be eligible for this program.
So everyone who's on title has to qualify. And let's say you have multi-generations living in the same home, the same household income maximums still apply as well.
Right, yes.
So everyone who's on title must qualify underneath the program.
Right. Yeah.
And in theory, 99% of the time, a parent has already owned before.
Yeah,
so therefore they're ineligible.
Happens. Right, yeah. So I would definitely, make sure you ask, those questions when you do have those files, or, as a client out there, make sure again, talk to the mortgage professionals, because Katy here obviously has been well known in the industry, well known with what's going on with the program. You're obviously going to know what the criterias are, so it's so important to make sure that your clients are speaking to you directly.
Yeah, I always say to people to ask the question. There's no stupid question.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Even if I've heard it 1,000 times over, if it applies to you and you make the wrong assumption and then make a decision based on that, and it could go wrong.
Right.
So you always want to ask the question.
Well, you did mention about guarantors, and we didn't touch a lot on guarantors. Guarantors on the file is fine because they're not on title. They don't have to fit in the eligibility checklist box, pretty much.
But we know a lot of lenders are using a guarantor less and less. That they like anyone who's on the application to be on title.
Yeah,
so.
and generally that's sort of the same with us. We're more leaning towards having the guarantors on title. As a co-applicant, as opposed to them being on as a guarantor.
Okay. So let me ask a tough question. And again, this is, we all have our personal opinion on this, but does this whole program not contradict what the government has just done, the federal government, in terms of changing mortgage rules back in October as it relates to stress testing?
I mean, a lot of people would say it does contradict, but it doesn't, because it's still a high ratio deal, and those files and the clients do have to fit within the stress test rules, so they still have to fit within the 25-year amortization. The purchases are under $1 million, qualifying with the benchmark rate. So no, I would say not, and a lot of people that I'm hearing are saying that it doesn't contradict, where some people I could see are saying that, but
yeah, I sort of put you on the spot by asking you that, but it's but I wanted to see that you would have the same answer as I do. I don't think it contradicts, because we are, as you say, using a payment on that loan for qualification, and because it's high ratio, we're qualifying at that stress test or benchmark rate, so we're following all the same rules. BC government's just offering, principal and interest-free payments for 5 years on that loan. That's the only difference.
Exactly.
So, okay, that's a good one. So talk to me then, about the change. Obviously, the government's come in and made, either provincial or federal has come in and made changes. And I want our listeners to hear what it's like from a lender perspective. I know what it's like from the broker perspective, but why we're only talking about it 2 or 3 days before it actually launches.
And we don't even have the full answers yet.
Just
it's
to give a bit of
interesting,
background.
Yeah. Well, it is interesting that any time, and I can't say it for all the changes, but for the last few changes that we had with the government, there's usually a change in the government, and oftentimes when there's a change in the government, us being in the mortgage professional industry, especially me being on the lender side, we don't know all the information, because oftentimes when we hear about the changes, we are just aware of those changes as well too. So with the recent changes, with this announcement that was made on December 15th, we had no idea about this, and I was talking to some people in the insurance side, and they were unaware of this program, and they were actually putting together a program, a day or two after this announcement. And generally what happens is that once they put together their program, then they send a notice out to the lenders, and then we would look at it and sort of adapt to these changes and figure out how we're going to be able to or process this program, which is kind of at the stage where we're at right now.
To even offer it.
Right, yeah.
So just to sort of recap the government decides, and then the industry finds out. So there is no pre-planning, no pre-processing, understanding whether or not a lender's even going to participate in this program, and if they decide to, how to, and then to communicate that to your sales force, the brokers, for us to then communicate it to the clients. Because I've had a number of clients asking, and I said, well, to the best of my knowledge, here's what I know, but I don't know everybody that's participating in this. But First National is.
Yeah, we are. We're excited to say that we are. I know that we are accepting pre-approvals right now. So if you have clients that are looking at sending in pre-approvals, just put it in the notes that they're applying for this grant. If you happen to know what the grant is, put it in the notes as well too, because we're still finalizing the program. And I'm sure by the time everyone hears this podcast, podcast, we'll know more information about it. So
Yeah.
again, just reach out to Katy to get more information. But currently right now, when we're doing this, we just don't know the full details on the whole underwriting criteria because they're still finalizing everything.
Yeah. Now, we were going to go through an example, but I know I've been sitting with a couple of these examples today, and I have found them confusing. And what premium applies, traditional down payment, non-traditional down payment, combination of. So I think we might avoid showing an example or talking to an example today, only because we want to make sure again that we are providing as accurate as information as we can. But best if you wanted to run through any scenarios, normally I would throw up contact information for my guest, but your contact to Erica is basically just to me, and then I talk to her. So if you do have a scenario that you wanted to run through, please contact me. It is important, again, to ask the questions, to say, would I qualify? Yes or no. Go through that application process online. There is a calculator on BC Housing website that you can go through there to qualify yourself as well, but always go through those questions with us, because if this is forming part of your down payment, we need to know that, and we need to be able to submit that to lenders like Erica through First National, and hopefully get you into your first home. Well, Erica, thank you for taking the time to be with us today. I know I put you on the spot. I called you this morning to say, can you please come in and talk to me on the podcast? Because I know you'd been to this excellent session today. And I know clients are grateful because there's more information here than even I had earlier this morning.
Yeah, well, I'm really excited to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity. And I think just with the partnership and support that we get from you and your team, I'm here to support, even though I might not have all the answers. Hopefully this session would be at least somewhat useful to the people that you deal with and the people out there who are looking at getting their foot in the door.
Excellent. Well, thank you for taking the time to listen today. Again, by the time you hear this podcast, the BC Home and Equity Partnership Program will be out and be available. But if you have any questions, please do give me a call at 604-612-6970, or reach out to me through my website at www.mackenziemortgage.com, spelled MACKENZIE, mackenziemortgage.com, or through the podcast. If you're listening, obviously you've made it to the podcast website or Facebook page. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so that you have regular updates to future podcasts, and reach out and let us know if there's anything you'd like to hear on a future podcast. Thanks again for listening.